I had previously talked about the time Aerosmith toured with Megadeth and how Dave Mustaine and company were fired from the tour after only several shows. The link to that video is down below. I've also done a video about the time the Black Corwes opened for ZZ Top, only to be fired on that tour. The link to that video is down below as well. But today's video, we're going to look at the Aerosmith Black Corwes tour that would result in the band being fired after only a handful of shows, only to be rehired again, and it resulted in a war of words and bad blood between the bands for several decades. In 1990, Aerosmith was out on the road as part of their Pump tour, and they had just regained their title as one of the biggest rock acts in the world, while the Black Corwes, meanwhile, were the new kids on the block, promoting their debut album 1989, Shake Your Money Maker. It seemed like a perfect match given that Aerosmith was a huge influence on the Black Corwes, with frontman Chris Robinson telling Rolling Stone, "To me, it's so obvious that I'm a Steve Marriott ripoff that I never talked about Rod. I admit it, Steve Marriott is the guy, him and Paul Rodgers and Greg Allman. The thing I do with the mic stand, I picked up from Steven Tyler. When I was a kid, I'd see films of Aerosmith on the Midnight Special, and the next day, I'd have toys in the attic on in my room running around like Steven." His brother and the band's guitarist Rich would see the parallels between both bands, telling the same interviewer, "I think we serve the same purpose the Stones did 20 years ago or Aerosmith did 15 years ago, just to slap you in the face and say shut the F up and listen." One review I stumbled upon from Philadelphia drew the parallels between a fine oiled machine like Aerosmith and an inexperienced up and coming band like the Black Corwes. The review would read, "Last night about 6,000 rabid fans ranging in age from their early teens to their early 40s packed Stabler Arena at Lehigh University. The band's 35 minutes never connected, crippled by overwhelming guitar volume that obliterated the drums and the flat vocal delivery of singer Chris Robinson. At Stabler, raw youthfulness did the Black Corwes in. As Robinson squirmed into a paisley jacket and brandished a whiskey bottle on his way off the stage, he looked embarrassed, rightly so. It was several shows into the tour that the Black Corwes got fired because of Robinson's behavior, as he revealed in this interview.
Then we get to the first gig, and of course, the most career-oriented minded group in the history of music. We opened the show with a new song we had just written or something. And if I remember correctly, I was crawling around on the stage with a big knife, stabbing it into the stage. I don't know what we were doing. But I guess the drummer for Aerosmith watched the opening of our set and immediately went back and contacted their management and had us fired. Idea of those inspirational things. So when you're starting, you know what I mean? You don't, it's new. You know, that's the first time we're in arenas. And I guess we bit off more than we could chew on the first night. But cooler heads prevailed and we finished the tour.
About a year after the tour concluded, Robinson gave an interview to Rolling Stone where he made disparaging remarks about Steven Tyler, saying, "If you're an entertainer and you take it seriously, you entertain with your natural abilities. You go on stage and take a chance like everyone else does. People say to us, 'Man, I heard some bad notes in your set tonight.' Well, alright, you heard some bad notes. You saw a real band tonight, didn't you?" he'd say. Rich would come to his brother's defense, telling Rolling Stone, "All Chris said is that he's disappointed because great bands he's loved all his life were made to resort to using tapes in concert, and it bums him out because he feels like they're better than that. It made him look at the world and think, man, things are effed up, the music industry is just for shit." It would be almost 3 decades before Chris Robinson and the members of Aerosmith made up. While the Black Corwes would break up in 2015, Robinson would perform with the group the Chris Robinson Brotherhood and started performing under the moniker As the Crow Flies. He would reveal to Ultimate Classic Rock how things seemed to heal in 2018, saying, "It started out so cantankerous with Aerosmith. We went on tour with them and I was still a kid, and I was shocked that they used tapes for Steven Tyler's vocals. I brought it up in my first Rolling Stone interview and got nasty messages from everyone involved. 'What are you doing, kid?' I was like, 'Oh, sorry, I was just shocked that that's how it went down.'" Robinson would go on to tell Ultimate Classic Rock that he found himself in a hotel elevator with Aerosmith guitarist Joe Perry in Boston, and they shared a mutual appreciation for each other's music. This led Robinson to guest starring on Perry's solo record at the time, Switzerland Manifesto, and he would also appear on stage with a guitarist. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again on Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.